everyone. My name's Erin Barnes, and I'm Scoir's Content Marketing Manager. Just a short while ago, I was honored to have a conversation with Dr. Robert Abosa about the social and emotional impacts of COVID-19 as it relates to education. If you didn't catch our conversation, you can find the link in this video's description. Today, I'm honored to be continuing the conversation with Dr. Abosa. When we spoke last, there was a common theme near the end of our discussion: communication. The communication that takes place from counselor to teacher, from teacher to student, from teacher to parent, so on and so forth, is so critical. Communication is truly key in this moment.
I agree, and I also would recommend teachers use social media. Twitter right now is on fire with the teacher world. Good way for them to share thoughts, ideas, good way to laugh a little, share cute jokes and ideas about things that are happening. We can't forget about that. But the one thing that you brought up that really does worry me is that this issue of communication and layered communication is critical if you have connectivity. The problem is many large districts in urban environments with high poverty have pockets with absolutely no internet because people can't afford it, or in rural America, in Odessa, Texas, for example, there's a big part of West Odessa that has little to no internet, and even their cellular phone service is very weak. So it really does bring into play other equity issues in this country for poor rural America and inner city urban poverty as well. So these are the kinds of things that COVID has exposed. Those things already existed, but now there's a huge bright light exposing the inequities that I think many of us just take for granted. And I think we need to think about internet just like we do water and electricity. It is a primary utility that people must have in order to operate in the 21st century.
Of course. Have you been part of any conversations, or have you seen any solutions or chatter around, communities that are, maybe a little bit disconnected that have sparked your interest?
Yes. So many districts right now have found a way to sort of, I want to say, put a Band-Aid on this issue by providing these hotspots that are issued to students in 6-month increments, where they bring this small hot box home and they're a hotspot, home, and then they can use their school district issued laptop or other device to work. That's a temporary solution. A longer term solution is one that we're actually seeing in Ector County, which is Odessa, Texas, where the city, the county, and the school system have all put some funding together and are actually building an internet provider solution out in this particular area for those individuals. And that's a good long-term solution. And I think it's one that I hope other communities begin to replicate.
Like you mentioned, the issues we're discussing here are not new by any means. And it would seem as though COVID-19 has served as a catalyst for much needed action within the education industry.
Yeah, and I think if you layer in the political environment, the race relation issues that this country has had, that COVID maybe in some ways, to your point, could be a silver lining in that individuals in places, in positions of privilege and power are beginning to really deeply understand the divide that exists in this country, and maybe seeing more action. I mean, even in the racial, as people have gone out and marched and supported Black Lives Matter and other political movements, it's good to see a nice diverse group of people joining hands and saying, look, there's a problem here, and we can't just stand by and do nothing, right? So what can we do? And each of us in a small way has to contribute, whether it's being allies with our brothers and sisters of color, or people who live in poverty, or people who maybe don't have the support systems that they need. And again, look, you also could look back at the breakdown of the family, where individuals who have strong family networks can rely on one another to support each other through times of crisis. But the family hasn't really been a big part of our story. And a lot of families, aren't there for one another like they were maybe 40 or 50 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
The family structure also doesn't necessarily just need to be your brothers and sisters, aunts and uncles, right? A family structure, a community structure could be friends and work colleagues and others, right? It's just a structure that allows individuals to have support.
Mm-hmm. Those support networks can really make all the difference in times like these. Robert, as we near the end of our conversation together today, if there was one thing that listeners take away from our conversation, what would you hope that it would be?
Well, I think it's important that we try to find joy in some of the rituals and customs that are typically prevalent in education. So, for example, if you're doing a ninth grade orientation and it has to be done online, have some fun with it. Have the band come in, and even though maybe it's not in a traditional way with the full band, but have some kids there with a drum line that you record and share with everybody. Try to make some fun with some of these natural sort of transitions that occur. I think about all the kids who are seniors this year, right? They're starting off their August or September, and usually that means homecoming and big football games and dances. And there's certain things that happen the senior year that right now are on hold. Let's not forget about those kids. Let's not forget about those customs and the things that we typically do, and find creative ways to keep those kids engaged. So, the best thing here is for school people to be creative, to show their best thinking. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Steal ideas from one another. I mean, that's really what we're good at, taking an idea from somebody and then really morphing it or customizing it for our own use in our own classroom, our own school, our own community.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing is, let's thank our teachers. Let's be smart about elevating that position, not just financially, but just in general, right? And I think maybe next year during Teacher Appreciation, it may be one of the best times for parents to just say thank you. I maybe have taken for granted just how hard it is to teach, because now I'm at home with my kids trying to navigate this on my own. I've finally realized that this is a lot harder than I thought. And maybe it's time for us to really take a deep look at that and show our appreciation and love to our teachers, principals, and other educators.
All right, Robert. So thank you so much for your time today. I think, now more than ever, as we've discussed, we all miss the feeling of being connected and together. Are there any last recommendations that you want to provide for educators at this moment in time?
Well, first and foremost, leadership matters. So all of you in a position of leadership, whether you're a teacher leader, a building leader, or a school district superintendent, lean in more now than ever. Communicate, communicate, communicate. Understand that mistakes will happen, and that's okay. We get it. Parents are expecting this version 2.0 to go better than the first time we got caught flat-footed back in March. And so the expectations will be higher, but let's make sure that we hold hands through these waves as they come in, so that none of us get knocked down, and that we support one another, that we're honest, transparent, and hold ourselves accountable, but understand, again, that mistakes will happen, and that there will be people who are upset no matter what the decision is. Unfortunately, more now than ever with school openings and debates about whether this is political or not, let the science speak for itself. Work with your school boards and your community to make decisions that make sense for you and for your community, and don't feel pressured politically to do something that you feel is unsafe for your staff and unsafe for the kids. So best of luck to everybody. Looking forward to a continued conversation and seeing great successful things occur. Thank you for having me.
Great advice. Thank you so much for your time today, Robert.